Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Clubhouse with the Nats Report. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus, joined by my friend and co-host.
Hayden Raymer.
We have a lot to talk about today. I know it's been a bit since we last did in the Clubhouse, but the Nats are having a nice little resurgence. Wouldn't you say so, Hayden?
Yeah, no, I mean it's the tale of these past 2 years, these scrappy Nats, they look like, hey, maybe they're a playoff team, and then they don't look like that at all, and then they look like it again. Uh, Baseball, man, 162 games. That's why we play 162, because I mean they're almost in the playoffs right now.
Right, that wild card race.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean,
We'll
that's
we'll
what
talk
happens
about
when
that.
you have three wildcard spots.
There's like 10 teams all gummed up there, but that's besides the point. Uh, you know, it's been what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks since we last
Up
did
about a
our
month
show.
again. You know how we roll nowadays. We're bad hosts for podcasts.
But no, everything has changed since then. Well, that's not exactly true, but talk about the Nationals' recent success a little bit here. They lost today, unfortunately. But before that they were on a 5-game win streak.
hmm
Uh, and what's been powering them for this little burst of success here?
I mean, it always comes back to pitching with the Nats. They this season they've been very reliant on their starters. I mean, Jake Irvin is blossoming into one of the best pitchers in the National League right now. Where he's probably not going to be an all-star, but he's a candidate for to be an all-star. Mackenzie Gore obviously has had a very good season. Uh, Mitchell Parker's obviously stepped up a ton. Uh, and then, even though they lost Trevor Williams, DJ Hers, he's been okay. And at the end of the day, I mean, if that's the guy that you're calling up to be the essentially the sixth man, or I mean, he's technically the seventh man at this point. Now because Josiah went on the IL earlier in the year. Uh, for him to be the seventh man and be, keeping them in the ball game, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, DJ Hers made his MLB debut. He's pitched 2 games now. Uh, he's been solid. It's not like the world on fire kind of crazy, but
hmm
he's been solid in a role that we've been seeing recently. A guy like Wanadone come in and take over. And
hmm
he stepped into that little setup. Like it's not he didn't really he started, but he's not going to be a starter in the future from what it seems like in perfect world. But
Yeah, I mean he's got two pitch. He's only really got two pitches. He's got that changeup and he's got that fastball. Uh, they're very good uh pitches. Uh, but without that clear third pitch or even a fourth pitch, you kind of can sit on one. Uh, and it's hard to be a really good major league starter. Like those have to be elite pitches if you are going to be a two pitch guy.
yeah, definitely. So I mean, there's a lot of potential there, and that's really what we want to see out of a guy like DJ Hers, who is making his debut recently for the Nationals. But the other part of their little run here is that the bats have been going a little bit, right? In their 5-game win streak, they've scored 7, 8, 5, 7. They've been putting runs up on the board, and it hasn't necessarily been through you know a elite amount of power, but they've been stringing hits together. That scrappy Nats like you were talking about.
hmm
We're getting it from all over the order. Is there someone on the offensive side that has really stuck out to you during this last little stretch of baseball?
I mean, obviously with that 5 game win streak, Lane Thomas uh, got really hot. At the top of that lineup, that's huge, especially when your leadoff man C.J. Abrams seems to be coming out of what has been was a really bad May. Uh, and so, I mean, if you have those two guys going, and they can drive each other in, or and Lane can drive in CJ, it makes it a lot easier then for the kind of the rest of the lineup to produce. And I mean that's what they've been doing. Jesse Winker, Luis Garcia. It's been somebody different pretty much every night, but
Right.
people have been producing.
Right. And speaking of CJ Abrams and his struggles a little bit, right? He came off into the beginning of the season, he was on that torrid pace, right? And that wasn't going to continue forever. We all knew that, but it's been it's been not a like you said, it's been a bad May. What are you looking at for him? Like he's started to seemingly come out of it, but what are you looking at for him to improve that? What's so wrong in May when compared to the first month of the season?
I mean, I'm glad you asked. So in the first month of the season, right? What I mean, CJ. I mean, you say it was unsustainable, right? But when you look at kind of like those periphery numbers, I mean, it was something that he hadn't been doing for a sustained stretch, right? But I mean, the numbers themselves, they were sustainable. Where he could have maintained that 992 OPS he had through the first month. Uh, but things kind of went wrong. Just in every facet of the game. The big thing that kind of stood out to me, he drew one walk in 27 games. It took 116 plate appearances. He had a 0.9% walk rate for the month of May, which when you're not hitting the ball at all, he had a 205 batting average. Uh, it's hard to feel like you can do anything, and I think that kind of just got to him a little bit.
Right. I mean, at the same time, he was getting a little bit unlucky. You kind of look at those expected stats. He's got an expected batting average of 291, which is almost 40 points higher than what he has right now. I know that's not the whole story, right? But
Yeah.
that's definitely a part of it. That luck with the ball in play definitely contributes to it. Um, I I expect him to get his numbers back up. Maybe not to the same level that it was in the beginning, but I mean, he's better than he was in May,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, we're not even halfway through June yet, and he's already got two walks. I mean, he's already doing better, man. I mean, yeah, like I said, it was just, the big thing for him too is he's hitting for power again. Uh, he's one extra base hit shy from his total in May, so far here in June. Uh, so I mean everything's kind of just clicking back and forth. The big thing that's kind of just shocked me, just not even just a month by month basis, but just throughout the whole season so far, he isn't running.
Right. That is shocking because the Nationals have one of, if not the highest, like running numbers in the league. I think they have the most
Oh, by
stolen bases
far,
as a
yeah.
team. But he only has 10, which isn't bad at this point in the season, but it isn't anything like like we saw at the end of last year where he was getting 1, 2 stolen bases a game, you know? Um, but you still have that kind of run culture. Do you know why they are not running with him? I know that's shocking to you, but do you know if there's any kind of metrics behind that?
I don't know. I mean, so like in general, when he has run, he's been generally hasn't been as successful. He's attempted 15 stolen bases attempts so far this season. Uh, and like you said, he has 10 stolen bases, so he's caught 5 times. He was caught 4 times in all of last season. You know, uh, I'm not sure if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's just lack of opportunity. If I remember correctly, there was an interview with Lane Thomas. It was on Masson, where he just talked about how he was, it was an adjustment for that second half when CJ kind of did ramp up those stolen base attempts. And, he's having to balance. Hey, I gotta have my at bat. I need to do what I need to do, right? But I also need to balance what he needs to do, which is he needs to steal bases. And I can't be swinging at every pitch. Sometimes I'm gonna let some pitches that I can hit go by. Uh, and I mean, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I mean, I know he was hurt there. He was banged up a little bit too. I'm sure that definitely plays a factor. Uh, but hey, maybe he's just he's waiting for the summer to kick in, and then fully, and then he'll just start stealing like crazy again. I don't know.
Right. And then yeah, no, we don't know because it like you said, it did ramp up at the end of the second half. It kind of came out of nowhere, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Uh, that huge explosion of stolen bases, and the Nationals, it's fun to see that they're keeping that kind of philosophy because it's worked for them. You know, it's a tough thing to it's a tough thing to keep going, but speed does kill in every game, and speed on the bases, getting those extra runners, and especially doing it at the clip that they've been doing it this season is very impressive to see.
Yeah.
It's a really big shift, really, from the last couple seasons. I mean, they were very conservative on the base paths before this year,
Yeah,
so
I mean, if anything, I mean, you look at somebody like Jesse Winker, right? Comes in, uh, his first year with the Nats. In his career, Jeremy, he had 3 stolen bases. Uh, Entering this season, he already has 11 this year. Uh, so I mean, everybody is running. Lane Thomas has 16. Jacob Young has 17. I don't even know if that's updated with today's numbers. I don't remember. Can't remember off the top of my head if anybody stole a base today. Uh,
I'm pretty
oh
sure
no,
someone had one. I
someone
don't remember
attempted.
who.
Somebody attempted. Garcia tried. He got caught for the first time this year.
Mm,
Yeah. But he's got 9. I mean, everybody has a stolen base. Yeah, every position player has a stolen base, Jeremy.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. And I mean, it's one thing that I think the Nationals obviously they worked on in the off season, and I think it's really helping them because if you don't have that pop, that power like the Nats don't really have, uh, base paths is a great way to get ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
the Nationals have also been dealing with people moving in and out of the lineup with injuries, right? Most
yep.
recently, Joey Gallo goes back on the 10-day IL with a hamstring. You have Trey Lipscomb coming back up, Joey Meneses going everyday first baseman again. It seems like there's been a lot of toying with this lineup, right? And they went on this run. I believe this was Joey Gallo got hurt in the middle of this winning streak, but right before that, they had that four game losing streak. It's been a lot of toying with these lineups. Is there any kind of combination that you're seeing with the Nationals so far that's developed in the last since we last talked that you really like or dislike?
Uh, I have all sorts of issues with the way this lineup has been constructed. Uh, and it just progressively it gets like just weirder and weirder as the season goes on. Uh, Today's was good, you had, Abrams, Lane, then you have Winker in the 3 hole, right? They were sitting Senzel to start the day. Typically, he's been hitting in the 8 hole or down near there, uh, which, I mean, we're talking about a guy who has, I'm trying to pull up his numbers real quick. Uh, he has a 349 on base percentage and a 422 slugging. Uh, That's I think the second highest. Yeah, it's the second highest slugging percentage on this team. I don't know why we're keeping him down there at the bottom of the lineup. I mean, I know a lot of that was powered by that power home run streak that he went on early in the year. Uh, I really would like to see him hit higher. I'm glad Winker's hitting high again. I am not a fan of Eddie Rosario hitting as high as he has, especially when it's at the cost of Luis Garcia being lower in the order. It's just I don't know. I just we're not rewarding the guys who succeed. Uh,
Right, and
or
Eddie Rosario is one of those guys that's kind of I don't understand him because you look at what he's done recently, he's better than a 187 hitter, right? But also at the same time, he goes through these stretches where he's not touching the ball. And you mentioned him being all the way up top half of the lineup. They move him all the places around, but it's not it's a weird placement for him, right? And he's getting everyday play too. You'd think there's someone else that might be a better bat to throw in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily. I mean, there's a one. I mean, obviously he's hurt right now. There was a guy who would have been a great fit for this lineup. Still a left-handed bat. Still has that power, has that on-base ability. He's gonna steal some bags, but unfortunately James Wood's been banged up. Uh, I don't know. It's just we you like you said, Rosario's been streaky. And I have the numbers here for you, Jeremy. He had a 299 OPS in March and April. Not good, right?
No.
That's good when they're hitting 299. That was his entire OPS. If he was getting on base at a 299 clip, we'd be like, okay, like you're not. Hopefully, you're hitting for some power. But no, that was his entire OPS. In May, he had an 849 OPS. Great. That is two polar opposites. Let's keep that up. So far in June, he has a 540. Uh, it's been just weird with Eddie. And I mean, I get it. Like, there's not really a whole lot you can do. Jacob Young provides a lot of value for this team. Right now, with the way this roster is constructed, he needs to be in that lineup every day because in the base paths and, uh, in the outfield, he provides a ton of value for the Nats. Uh,
Right.
and they're kind of just stuck because, Joey Gallo hasn't quite hit the way that you would have hoped. Uh, Lane Thomas has obviously had his struggles. Uh,
But is this not what you expected out of Joey Gallo?
I mean, it is. The thing with Gallo is like it's just you kind of can't judge his season until the season's over. Like just with the inherent way that his approach is, which is he's gonna take his strikeouts, he's gonna take his walks, and he's gonna hit homers. When he goes a minute between those homers, that line is gonna look really bad, and we're kind of in that stretch now where it's been a minute since he's hit a homer, uh,
Right.
and so it's just a little rough looking at it. It's just it's you kind of gotta move Thomas out of the two hole. But that's not what
Who'd
the
you
team's
put
going to do.
who'd you put in the two hole instead?
Winker.
He's been he's been really good this season.
He's been really good. He's going to take a lot of pitches. He just, he has a really high walk rate. He just in general through his career, he's seen a lot of pitches. Uh, then I'd put Senzel in the three hole. Uh, then you put Garcia. Yeah, I mean you could swap Garcia and Winker. Uh, But Garcia deserves to kind of be hitting high in that lineup. Then you kind of go Lane Thomas, then you go, Rosario or Ruiz, and then I mean, then you kind of just you stick Young at the bottom of that order, and hope he gets on base for Abrams. Uh, I don't know, Jeremy. What are your thoughts on the lineup? I've talked a
The
lot.
lineup is the lineup is weird, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of guys that you have to fit in there, and then you have a lot of guys that like in Eddie Rosario, that you don't have to fit in there. Or we've talked about this a lot, but the Joey Meneses problem, right? You don't have to have him in there, but you also at the same time kind of have to have him in there, at least the way that this roster is built currently. At the top of the lineup and the way that this lineup is built for speed, you want to have, Jacob Young at the bottom to set the order up top for CJ Abrams, getting on base. And I understand moving Lane Thomas out of the two hole, but it's what worked so well last season. I know you have to adapt and adjust, but Lane Thomas,
Mm-mm.
sliding him all the way down to where did you have him? 6?
I had him hitting like 5.
I mean, that's fine. But maybe especially with Joey Gallo being out, you don't have that big power bat. Lane Thomas can be stuck into that cleanup role. Uh, Winker too. He takes those pitches, lets those guys run, and giving Luis Garcia those opportunities to get more at bats because, like you said, he's batting way too low in this order. And you could say the same thing for Nick Senzel. It's just there's a lot of guys right there that who have gone on those stretches of being hot that it's tough to play around with because none of them are these like physically dominating hitters, right?
Yeah,
You don't look
not
at
day in and day out. They're not, gonna just mash the ball.
Right, and it's tough, especially, when you're talking lineup construction, your brain a lot of the time when you're talking like this, at least for me, it goes to that traditional lineup order, right? Your power hitters at near the top, and then you stick the guys at the bottom. But this lineup it's very balanced, right? It's not you're not gonna get like an awful it's not gonna be an awful lineup no matter how you shuffle it around, but there's ways to optimize it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so, I mean, like, you want to get super nerdy, talk about like baseball statistics and stuff. I mean, research shows the way you construct your lineup, it's, in a 162 game season, it's going to affect, you're going to maybe eke out an extra two, maybe three wins, right? If you
Right.
properly optimize it, which, if the Nets were, in the Dodgers' shoes, right? It doesn't matter what order Betts, Otani, Freeman, it really hit. At the end of the day, you're still gonna win a ton of ball games. Uh, but we're talking about the Nationals, unfortunately. Where if we're trying to, I mean, you and I have talked about, or is this team really trying to be a wild card team? If we are trying to be the wild card team, or at least put on the facade that we're trying to be the wild card team, I just the lineup's kind of a glaring hole in that facade, you know?
Right. And the one thing with that is this team this year,
Mhm.
they're just playing ball.
Yeah.
They don't have a purpose. They don't really have a goal. This team's goal is to make it to next year,
Yeah.
right? And whether they make the wild card in that tight wild card race where they're a game and a half out, but there's still like 5 teams ahead of them, it's going to be super. And I know it's early. We're only 70 games into the season, but you can start to kind of see the standings take shape. And you're getting to that point where they should be sellers at the deadline, right? They should be preparing for next year regardless of how this goes. But you don't know what they're going to do because they are in this precarious situation, right? Where hey, we can make the playoffs. Why not just have a little fun this year? And you never know what they're going to do. They're most likely going to be sellers because this is a season that they're punting on. But
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like you don't feel forced to sell like trade away somebody like Hunter Harvey, somebody like Kyle Finnegan because they have that extra year of control. But I mean, if you're holding on to Dylan Floro, who's having a really great year, it's a little bit like, why are we holding on to Dylan Flora when we can go get a prospect who can help us next year, uh, in the hopes that we somehow eke out a wild card three? Like that
right,
doesn't that's not a smart baseball move, uh, and that's kind of where my concerns lie. Uh, just to go back real quick, you talked about how Lane Thomas, like when he was good last year, it came out of the two hole. But that's not. I want to set the record straight on that, Jeremy. He had a 902 OPS when he was leading off. The next highest OPS was when he was hitting in the seven hole when he had a 815. When he was hitting in the two hole, he had a 694 OPS.
mm,
So that's not where he was having that success. It was when he was hitting leadoff. Was when he was really having that success last year in that first half of the season. Uh, I don't know. I just I don't I something about this C.J. Abrams or Lane Thomas 1-2 punch. It just doesn't work for Lane Thomas, and I don't know what it is. I mean, if it's just the approach thing for Thomas, if it's something mental at this point, I don't know. I'm not Lane Thomas. I'm not in the I'm not over there chatting with him every day. Uh,
right.
but it's
And I
it's not it's
mean,
not a match that's working. And it's
r-
something that we need to experiment with figuring out a way where, I mean, we were talking about Lane Thomas being not trading him at the deadline last year because he's a franchise cornerstone, or because we value him as a everyday player.
right.
Which right now he's not an everyday player. He's a lefty masher who a team like the Rays or the Phillies would platoon with like Brandon Marsh. You know, uh, because that's what he is right now. But in the first half of that season last year, he showed that he was an everyday player. And let's get him back to that.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm all
You and
down
me,
for that.
Jeremy.
We
We'll
just
just
got
go
to get in
walk in.
contact.
Yeah, we'll just walk
We'll get
in.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of like small holes like that all around this Nationals team. And you know, if there's a season to experiment, it's this one, right? Doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Throw them all over the place.
yeah.
Mess with that lineup.
Hit him in the 9 hole.
Yeah, why not?
It's practically leading off, right, Davey? Uh,
But
and
no,
then Jacob Young can hit in front of him, and he'll still struggle because he's got to take pitches for Jacob Young.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. You hit the nail on the head there. It's his approach.
yeah,
Again, I'm not in that clubhouse with him, and maybe part of that is the mental thing because he's thinking in that interview. He said he's thinking about letting those guys run
yeah,
before doing his approach, and I'm sure that's probably what it is.
yeah. No, I
He's not
mean,
his most comfortable self at the plate right now.
and I mean, if I really I was a fan of the I think they only ran it out 1 or 2 times so far this season, but they had a Lane Thomas, C.J. Abrams lineup where that was the 1-2 punch. And with like the way this roster is constructed, I like that a lot more. With the amount of lefties that we have in the lineup every day, I'd
Mhm.
rather run that right now personally. But that's just me.
Give him a shot back at the top.
Yeah,
It's always good to have big home run hitter at one. That's worked for the Nats.
yeah. Joey Gallo,
Joey Gallo,
Joey Gallo lead
lead
off.
off. Honestly, you know what?
Jesse Winker lead off. I mean, when we really think about it, who is more embodies Kyle Schwarber? Jesse Winker or Joey Gallo?
Joey Gallo is literally Kyle Schwarber light.
Okay, but Jesse Winker is having a better season.
He is having a better season. You're right. I can't
Like
argue with
a significantly better season. Now imagine if he gets the Kyle Schwarber lead off during the summer buff. Uh,
that.
the classic Nationals when you lead off. Because I mean, look, that's what happened when it's the leadoff hitter buff for the Nationals. They cast a spell on the leadoff hitter, and they get their MLB The Show ratings go up like in by like 25 in every attribute.
That's right. But yeah, talking about next season, right? Um, and really punting on this season in general, there's a lot of stuff going on in the minor leagues that's important to pay attention to as a Nats fan, right? Because that's where the future is. That's where it's going to start coming up next season. Obviously, we've talked a lot about those top prospects, James Wood, coming up next season, maybe even at the end of this season. Some of those other top prospects we've talked ad nauseum about, but this system is full of riches right now. We've had Mitchell Parker come up out of nowhere. DJ Hers came up. He wasn't really out of nowhere, but he came up a little earlier than at least I was
Expected.
expecting.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of these little more unknown guys. Who do you have your eye on down there in the minors right now?
I mean, so there's just been so many like breakouts in on the pitching side for the Nationals. We talk about, oh man, imagine if the Nats had a pitching lab with how much Rizzo loves drafting pitchers and building around pitching. What if they had a pitching lab? And it's starting to look like that, you know. Last night, Brad Lord struck out 10 batters in 7 innings. He's had a phenomenal season. Uh, so far this season across high A and double A, he's thrown 67, a little over 67 innings. He has a 146 ERA. He's striking out 26.7% of the batters he's faced, walking 9.8, where, I mean, that's still, you know, a lot, you know. But I mean, you wouldn't even find Brad Lord on like a sleeper prospect list heading into the season. So for him to be, tearing up the middle levels of the minors, uh, it's a positive sign, especially when you look at, you got Dizon Acosta, you have Orlando, sorry, not Orlando, Orlando Rebalta, and I lost the other name. those are, I mean, oh, Marquise Grissom Jr., of course. All of these relievers, I mean, the first two are striking out over 35% of the batters they faced uh, across Double A and Triple A so far this season. Obviously, they're a little bit on the older side. Acosta's 25, Ribalta's 26. Uh, but I mean, they've just been outright dominant uh, as relievers in the high minors. Where hey, I know how much you love Jordan Weems. I know how much you love Tanner Rainey, Jeremy. They're not getting the use that they kind of should be. They clearly have lost trust in those two. Uh,
Right.
hey, let's get those two. Give them a
Get him
shot.
back in the minors.
Get them, get
Yeah.
them, get the, give these two a shot. They're striking out the world, uh, and see what they can do. Grissom, he's been really good. He's only 22. He's striking out nearly 30% of the batters he's faced. And he has a 7.5% walk rate, which is, that's, if you have that from a reliever, that's pretty exceptional. Uh, and then, I mean, those are just relievers. Jarlin Susana, he's having a breakout year. Uh, and Andre Lara, who, was the former top prospect. Uh, we were talking about him as like a top five prospect for the Nats back in the olden days of 2020. Uh, when the system was very scarce. But he was a top five prospect for the Nats back then, and now he has a 2.36 ERA across high A and Double A, in 61 innings, and he's just striking out the world too. Uh, it's just crazy, crazy good year for Nats pitching prospects. I don't
Right.
know what's happening, but
I mean, this is kind of what we've been waiting on, right?
yeah,
They've had all these top pitching prospects in the system forever,
hmm
and finally we're getting all of them to break out at the same time.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know if that has something to do with the new minor league hires that they made in the off season.
hmm
Uh, but it's really good to see because this team, especially its minor league system, its farm system, has so much optimism around it. And like and it starts with pitching with Rizzo, right?
yeah.
That's where it starts, and it's all there. You have a wealth of options. You have so many options that if one doesn't work out, you've got three more to go and circle back to. It's really lucky that everyone is having these breakout at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about like successful franchises like the Rays, like the Dodgers, it's the reason why they're so successful is, you know, like the Nats in many off seasons, they're having to go and shell out. You think 2019 they went out and gave Kyle Barraclaw, they went and gave Tony Sip, they went out and signed Trevor Rosenthal. I'm trying to think of other relievers the Nats signed that offseason before 2019. Those are the only ones that are sticking in my brain at the moment. Uh, Fernando Rodney came in. That was in the offseason, but he came on over.
They traded for him and Hudson in midseason,
Did they trade for
I think.
Rodney?
Maybe. I think they did.
I know they traded for Hudson. I don't think they traded for Rodney. I could be wrong though. Yeah, you look that up for me. Uh, but I mean, they just the reason why these teams are so successful is they can just churn out quality pitching like it's nothing. They can make a bajillion Kyle Finnegans. Uh, and that's what we're seeing them start to do, where they are. I mean, obviously they have to prove it at the major league level first, but if we can see these guys, I mean, I can keep naming names. Travis Sikora has made his MLB or his professional debut. You know, and in 20 innings he's struck out what 12.84 per nine, 3.98 per nine. He's walked. Uh, he has a 3.57 FIP, a 4.43 ERA, but they kind of aren't letting or their strand rate there, or yeah, the strand rate's a little low. Uh, so
But
probably the
yeah, no,
defense
the Nats signed Rodney to a minor league deal in July.
in July. Yeah, so he yeah, that was an off season. That was a mid season pickup. Uh, I figured it was waivers or minor league deal. Uh, but yeah, no, I
But
mean
I mean, yeah,
the point still
to your point,
stands.
yeah,
Uh, it's great to see the Nats take a step forward. I also found out Matt Cronin's back in the system after being hurt like all of last year, so that's good. You know, former like closer who was like super dominant in college. Hopefully he can get back. Hopefully he still has it. I'm a big Matt Cronin fan, but yeah. Britsky's back pitching too. You know, I mean, it's
yeah.
just, obviously Cade Cavalli is rehabbing. He's coming back. Josiah Gray's near a rehab start, I think.
He had a rehab start. I think he's
He had
having
a
his
rehab.
second one soon.
Yeah, Cade Cavalli, he had that setback. That's right.
Yeah,
Uh, but I mean, it's looking bright.
it is. I'm very excited for the Nats in the future. But we got to get through this season first, and there's still a
Yes.
lot of positives in this season. It's a big tryout year for a lot of these guys. So
Try out
we'll
for other teams, obviously. They're getting, Jesse Winker's getting traded. But
yeah, but yeah, there's a lot to be excited about here in Nationals land.
yeah.
But yeah, do you have
James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Brady House homered last night.
they're all coming up soon.
They're all coming up soon.
Next year maybe, most likely.
Probably for at least House.
Yeah,
I mean, they should all be up by the end of next year. It's a bad thing. You should start to panic if they're not.
but yeah, that farm system is chef's kiss, wonderful
Yeah.
right now, and it hasn't been that way in a long time. So quick rebuilds are great. I love quick rebuilds.
I mean, was it quick, Jeremy?
It was. It was. It was like 4 years, 5 years.
That's okay. I
That's a
mean,
quick rebuild.
it's not a forever rebuild. I mean, it's hey, I'm just glad we're not the White Sox tearing it down again. After tearing down the rebuild is always the worst thing in baseball. And if you want to hear about more of the worst things in baseball, stick around. We're gonna do rounding third after, or if you're watching on YouTube or listening afterwards, it should be on the site or wherever you're watching or listening. Uh,
Yep.
Jeremy, you wanna take us out of the clubhouse? Kick
Yep.
us out?
Yep. Remember to go check out the Nats report. Lots of good stuff going up on there. Daily recaps, lots of minor league coverage. Hayden
James
does
Wood
his.
interview was just put up the other day.
Go check that out. That's really cool. Um, really good work there. But yeah, remember go check out the Nats report. You've been listening to Into the Clubhouse with the Nats report. We are your hosts, Jeremy Lapidus, and
Hayden Raymer.
thank you so much for tuning in. Catch us in just a couple minutes around the corner on Rounding Third, where we'll cover the rest of baseball. But we'll be back probably next week, if not sooner than a month,
Yeah.
for more baseball coverage here. So we'll see you then.